Welcome to Flesh and Pod, a flesh and blood podcast, breaking down weekly news and notes from the tournament scene, community drama, game strategy, and more. And now, here are your hosts, Darick and Logan.
Hello, and welcome to episode 216 of Flesh and Pod. My name is Logan. I'm your host. And with me, as always, just a day late, is Darick Oswald. Darick, how are you doing?
So this is the problem with the class, okay? That even when you have a hero that's just fair,
Fuck it.
It gets viewed as being absolutely awful when I think that it's fine. You're so trained, you're so believing in the power that is Runeblade that you see somebody like Vincent and you're like, well, I mean, if it's not number one in the meta, then like, why do I even care? But like, that's just been Runeblade historically. I don't think Vincent is bad, and definitely not Bolton bad, like you were saying before you hit record. And I won't take this slander.
No. What I said was, you said Vincent is one or two cards away from being really good. And I said, it's either that or she's like Bolton, who is always one or two cards away from being one or two cards away.
But she's not. No, that's what I'm sure. So if you're just joining us, hello.
If you weren't listening to the conversation we were having offline.
My point is that, again, Runeblades have historically been so good in Flesh and Blood that if a version of Runeblade exists that is not like top tier, it's considered just absolute like dog water,
yeah,
right?
Just
like
terrible.
It is. It's just so weird that is the way that you look at that class. Whereas like you can look at Guardian, and with the exception of Betsy, you're just like, oh well, like, you know, they all have their pros and cons and they're kind of interchangeable. And well, you could do this if you like this version or whatever. But because Guardian, you know, with the exception of Starvo, who wasn't really a Guardian,
that's a Runeblade.
He was kind of a Runeblade. With the exception of Starvo, the rest of them, like, they've had times where they're good, times when they're not, whatever. But then you look at Runeblade and you're just like, well, when Chain was around, it was like Chain was the deal, right? And then when Vincent came around, we were all like, oh, she's dog water because she's not doing what Aurora did, and she's not doing, well, she was before Aurora, but she was not doing what Viserai did, right? Now, when Viserai first came around, there were some mixed feelings about it, but definitely benefited from being, somebody who has Runeblade on him, because by the time Skeletor rolled around, it was pretty spooky. Oof. And then they took Skeletor away, but then, other Runeblade stuff popped up. But like Briar was just like absolutely insane. And it's just, it's Runeblade after Runeblade after Runeblade. And so even when we have ones, like I think Viserai is the perfect example. Viserai was considered almost like not playable. And it turned out Viserai was like one or two cards away that were probably meant for other Runeblades that just made like Viserai insane. And I'm not even talking about Skeletor Viserai, which was
You're
also
talking about Deadwood
insane.
Dirge.
I'm talking about Deadwood Dirge, right? So my point with
Malefic, yeah.
all of this is to say, my point with Vincent is that I think Vincent is better than people give her credit for right now. And I think that we are one or two cards away from her like being a real problem.
I think the read on Vincent wasn't so much that she's not Viserai or whatever. It's that she wasn't Chain.
Yeah.
And that's where everybody got tripped up, is because they were expecting Shadow Runeblade. It's better be Chain. And it's like, okay, people, Chain's entire text box is a mistake. The whole fucking thing.
Yeah.
So, no.
What if we made a hero who can give arguably the single best keyword in the game to things, go again, but in order to do that, we also make the hero stronger as the game goes on. It's not even a negative or a drawback to pay for go again. It's actually ramping Chain up along the way.
But hear me out. What if the hero had a 7-card hand every turn?
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, oh, I get to do the thing, and then that lets me do more things? Okay, sure.
It's legitimately that.
But, like, so jokes aside, you were making the comparison to Bolton, and I do kind of see that just because Bolton with the charging effect, my biggest knock on him is that it feels like many of the turns when you're doing Bolton things, not just standard warrior things, because I know there's decimator versions floating around and whatever, but when you're doing Bolton things, it can feel like feast or famine. You're either basically playing with a 3-card hand or you're having a big pop-off turn. And when you're doing the first part of that equation, it feels really bad, right? Vincent could theoretically be viewed as like always playing with, a smaller hand size, but the rune gate mechanic and so many of the things that were already baked in, not just with her own card pool, but previous card pools because of chain and so forth, really makes it so it's not really hurting you to do so. It's not the same level of benefit as what we got with chain, but I would also say that I think one of the cool things about Vincent is that it's almost like Runeblade Assassin. Or like what if Assassins did arcane damage, because unlike the other Runeblades, Vincent in particular has a lot of disruption. And when it works, it feels pretty rough when they're like picking cards out of your hand. I'm saying this as someone who's just freshly double called at the calling from a Vincent, right? Like there are definitely, like, I can see why, okay, maybe the raw numbers aren't as high as, say, like a Florian, right? Florian is, you kind of play slow, hero power turns on, and then it's just like raw numbers that's also split damage, and eventually the break points add up over time, right? I know I'm oversimplifying that to the max, but like that's kind of like the overall consensus game plan. Vincent is like usually less overall numbers, still very capable of explosive turns. Like, don't let Vincent fool you. She can pump out 20 or 30 when the stars align. But if you're just talking about like general turn-to-turn game plan, it's slightly less numbers, but way more relevant effects. And the cool thing about Vincent is it's not a lot of the really powerful stuff is not even just on hits. It's just they have to have lost life, right? Yeah. So when you're presenting the mixed damage, right, now you're basically making them say, like, do I want to AB this or not? And if not, that's as good as an on hit. Right. So
because it's basically the same thing.
And then obviously her whole thing where, like, she can also make one be essentially unprevented, which is great. But yeah, I think that, obviously we're talking about this because Florian hit Living Legend. Yeah. I don't know if you sent me show notes, but I'm gonna
last night when you were ignoring me.
Well, I didn't open it up. So I'm just going to lean into that as to kick off the news portion. So Florian has hit Living Legend, and it just had me thinking about, like, okay, well, what does that do to the meta? I think Verdance and Auxilio are still enough that, people aren't going to be dropping AB entirely. But like we've seen in the past, when people play a class and then that class, that hero LLs, that class usually has some sort of identity, and then people try to find something similar, right? So, if you're a Dromai player, maybe you went to the new Prism when Dromai LL'd or whatever. So this is an interesting one where I think that the bulk of the Florian players will at least try Verdance, because
that was my read.
I feel like
the cards are similar.
The cards are similar, and Earth is more of Florian's identity than traditional Runeblade. Yeah. However, it's not at all close to the same play style as what people were playing on Florian. No. So if you're somebody who liked that, it would not surprise me if we see more folks at least give Vincent a shot. So we'll have to wait and see how it plays out, but I would guess that Auxilio and Verdance are probably going to gain in representation with Florian hitting LL. And the only reason I say Auxilio, I know that that's not Earth, but it is also still that like hybrid split damage, even though it's done a little bit differently. And for the most part, Auxilio still remains kind of cheap-ish to build. Like, I know that there are some expensive.
Gone in a Flash is really the biggest
Gone in a
thing.
Flash is like the real linchpin, and there's some other stuff, but a lot of like the core of the actual equipment, right? But the core of the actual deck for Auxilio is pretty reasonable. So if somebody wanted to like do some testing, and if it clicks, pick it up, that also seems like a reasonable shift.
Yeah, the conversation before made me actually think back to last week when we had a question about what would make Bolton good. And like after we got done recording and everything else while I was sitting and editing, I went, oh, fuck. The thing that would make Bolton good is if he had a tax that he could play from Soul. That would do it. And I just completely like...
That's probably Bolton 2.0.
Sure. Yeah. And I just like filed it away for later, and this became later. So, yeah, but Calling Columbus, we were there. Both of us. To varying degrees of success. Charmer, I'll let you go first because...
Oh, I mean, I got gemmed. I played Volda. I had a lot of fun playing. I had some high points with the deck. You know, when the deck was doing what it was supposed to do, it felt really good. I also had some low points with the deck. Matchups where normally... So, like, the Vincent matchup is a good example, right? Opponent was a very good Vincent player, not taking anything away from them, knew how to pilot it, but also I made them discard 0 cards. And they made me discard 6 over the course of the game. Well, I say discard, but discard, banish, whatever, right? Like just
remove from your hand by force.
Remove from hand by force, right? So, that one was rough. My first 3 rounds were all against arcane damage dealing opponents. 2 of them being Verdances. I was looking at like the meta share, and I was the king of. I think there were 6 total Verdances, and I played 2 of them. So like 1/3 of all of the Verdances in the room I played in the first 3 rounds. So it is what it is. But
did you see the Verdance date? Did you see the Verdance day 2 conversion rate?
I did. Yes. I will also say this: like I said, the deck still I think performed well. I want to make some changes and still continue to put reps in it because. Yes, I had some struggles, but like even when I was in my bad matchups, say more so than when I was on Huntsman, I still felt like the games were winnable or like, within reach. All of my games were close. The good news is like, even though I had some, rough matchups early on in the day, I never got blown out. Like even games that I honestly really like, when I think about it, I kind of had no business even being in them. Like when my opponents are popping off for like 20 or 30 and I was still keeping it close. So, like all things, I learned a lot about my bad matchups, if you will. So I think I'll just change around some of the sideboard stuff to try to short up, and I'll take another crack at it. But it was fun. I had a lot of fun doing muscle mommy stuff. Put them in their place is a hell of a card. It just does fun things. I will say, talking about bad luck, right? And just like things that you do in general. So not only was I struggling to find like pummels, or just like any of the stuff where I would have my disruption, but also if it gives you any idea, in the first 5 games of the day, I resolved a leyline exactly 1 time. And that's with me running, max copies of Visage and like trying to prioritize if I get an early Visage, get the leyline going. Because again, all these close games, a lot of times I found I was like either one point off, whether it was a break point or a defense, or a lot of times it was just like 1 resource off. And I kept going, man, if I just had that ley line, but I only resolved it once. And the one time I did resolve it, it got scoured along with 2 of my seismic surges all in one go. So that was rough. Yay, Verdance. So, yeah. Like I said, I still had fun. I learned a lot. I think Volda actually does still have like legitimate legs.
Dom played it to a 4-3 finish.
Yeah, so. It hits like a truck. The biggest thing is just navigating the bad turns because unlike traditional Guardian, you can't like when I play Bravo or Jarl or even really back when I played Starvo, even though it wasn't a real Guardian. A lot of times when like your hand is clunky, your game plan is just, okay, well, I'm a Guardian, so everything blocks for 3 or more, and we'll just reset next turn. The problem with Volda is you have a lot of stuff that either blocks for 2 or nothing, and that makes it sometimes very clunky even when you want to take those like reset hands, because you're leaking damage to do the reset. So again, like just as an example, and you can say it's just bad luck or whatever, but I had a game where, I don't know, it was like turn 5 or 6, so we're like in the thick of it thing or whatever, but I get a clunky hand of, I had like 2 seismic eruptions and I forget what the other card was, rouse the agents, and then another non-attack. So like I had no way to play the rouse. The seismics don't block. I have no guarantee that they're even going to set me up for something next turn. Like I'm going to, like, even if I just play one and Arsenal one, I'm still banking on going blind into the next turn sort of thing. So like, what do you do, right? But on the other hand, like I'm not going to not run seismic eruption. It's like the entire part of Volda's kit that's important. So just stuff like that. I think if I can just figure out how to navigate the bad turns better, it will help a lot.
Yeah. Yep. For those of you who are wondering from the past question, the conversion rate for Verdance on the tournament to day 2 was 0.
It was 0. Yes.
0%. Not a single one in day 2. My tournament was fine. I finished at 4-3. I lost in the last round of Swiss to not make day 2. It was a round 1 was a puffin where they chose to be on the play. They drew a hand of all reds, so they arsenaled and passed. And then their next turn with the only blue they drew, they didn't draw. They drew, I believe, another red. And so they pitched 3 reds to send an aeronaut for 6 with no cogs. That doesn't do anything. And so I just was able to go, fine, I will keep my hand and then proceed to beat you. And they were never able to recover. Round 2 was a Gravy Bones, where at one point in time I had $1,000 pitch zone, which is kind of cool because those 3 Fableds. But, and I was able to Gravekeeping a chum. If I didn't Gravekeep the chum, I was never in the game. But they had a call to the grave. Well, they had another chum on their draw, so they were just basically took a turn to establish a chum, and I had to fight through that one. Then they immediately established their 3rd chum directly behind it, and then made me deal with the 3rd chum along with other allies. It basically was they snowballed. They played all 3 call to the graves. Like, there's no way for me to catch up if that's going to happen. Like, I have to go to the face and hope that they don't have enough. And that was not going to be the case either. So I lost that one. Then I played into a Marionette. And this is where I thought I was in pretty firm control of the game. I felt fine where I was at. I thought that tempo was on my side, and we were going to be okay. Then my opponent goes, cut from the same cloth, caught a reaction in my hand. Mark you. Goonbait. Kiss of Death for 15. I'm like, that's a lot. Okay. That's probably very bad for me. And they were funnel web at the time. And I was like, okay, so block what I can here. And they're like, okay, tarantula toxin. And I'm like, great. So now I'm taking even more damage. Flick my other dagger to trigger both Goonbait. Savor Bloodshed. Draw 2 cards. Discard 1 for the funnel web ability. So 21, blow up your arsenal, eat your hand and your equipment. I thought that was going to be the worst thing that happened to me that day. And I was wrong. After that, played a Syndra, managed to win that one. Played another Puffin, was able to win that one. Played a Dash IO, where they did max V me twice, but there were no boom grenades attached to max Vs.
Oh, so I had 2 red boom grenades attached to my max V.
See, that's bad. You don't want that.
Yeah.
And then I note in my gem that my round 7 opponent is none other than Eugene C. Okay. Well, I know it's Reinar, so maybe I'm okay. Eugene takes the play, rolls a 1 on Scabskins. I'm like, okay. Not having to use my hand, I just would have blocked with everything regardless. But, all right. Get a turn off. Feels pretty good. He gets a little bit of a turn off. He ends up discarding a Blood Rush to a Pulping. So I'm like, okay, we're doing great here. Like we got rid of 1 Blood Rush. We're feeling pretty good. And so I'm trying to navigate through this. I got him to 20. I'm at 27. Like I got a Blood Rush out of the way. I think I can convert, my next hand and put enough pressure on the start blocking. So I feel like I'm in the driver's seat. And then this sequence of things happened. Eugene played a Tear Limb from Limb, discarding a 6. Okay, of course. Eugene then took a moment and rolled Scabskins. Rolled a 6. So 3 action points. Okay. I'm still not dead. Eugene then pitched a Blood Rush Bellows to play a Blood Rush Bellows. So he'd seen all 3. I'm like, this is terrifying, and I don't like this. Discards a Beast Within to draw a card. Oh, okay. And he kind of stops for a second. He goes, swing big for 18. Like, I've been intimidated twice at this point. Blow balance. Get a card. Put my entire hand, 3 cards and armor, all in front of the swing big. I think I blocked 11. Take 7 still. And I'm at 27. He stops for a second. He's like, okay. Bear Fangs with an action point. He had blown Sash. So all of these were reduced by 1. Bear Fangs discards a Beast Within. Draws 2 cards this time. One being a blue. So Bear Fangs for 10. Okay. I guess I'm taking 10 because I can't block. And he stops. He's like, claw for 5. Like, that's the most polite thing that's happened in this entire turn. And he's like, and another 10 behind it. So 43 damage was the output of the turn. And I was carved to pieces. I walked away from that match with a prolapsed rectum, and it was brutal. But I couldn't help but laugh. It was so fun. Like, just watching him, because I have no agency at this point. We're done. And now it's just watching in awe as Eugene just runs the math of what's the biggest number I can do with this hand? Well, start doing it. And it was rough, but tables around me are just laughing. I'm laughing because it's, again, it's not like I made a mistake. There was fuck all to do about it. So, okay.
The mistake was not playing against the 3rd Puffin.
The 3rd Puffin would have been fine. I would have been okay with the 3rd Puffin.
I was curious. I remembered thinking, when we were discussing it, like the day of, I was like, man, you played against 2 Puffins? How many are even here? So I went and I looked it up, and there were 3 total. So you played against 2 of the 3, but you did not collect them all.
Oh, it's so close.
Very surprised that there were 7 Marlins.
There were. I saw a lot of Marlin.
Yeah,
I saw the tables around me.
I saw the fatigue Pleiades that were running around. There were 8 of those.
It's a lot of those.
Says there were 8 Victors. I remember seeing some of those, but I did not see any of the Marlins, but 7 Marlins apparently.
Yeah. And so day 2, I didn't play the battle hard, and you took off, went home because you left your Silver Age deck on your desk. At least that's part of why I'm sure that you decided, yep, we're out. It also might have been just getting smashed by Gem.
Well, it was those things, and then also we'd come back. I think that when I was trying to find you or whatever, I think the Pummel event had just started, and I was struggling to find you, and Stark was starting to both crash, and also his like meds were starting to wear off. So I was trying to
manage.
Yeah, I am supposed to tell you that specifically he said, "Tell Logie Poo I said hi."
Okay. I may gut that child at some day. Okay. It may just happen.
He then stopped and said, "He's going to insult me. Please tell me what he says back."
There you go. You can go ahead and say that. Like, you can just tell him, I am going to gut him like a fish someday. That's fair. But I had a good time. My Airbnb mates were awesome. We had so much beer at that Airbnb because, so my friend Josh, who's with me, is a head of production at a brewery. So I picked him up from his work, at which point we put 2 cases of assorted beers in the car along with a 12-pack of something else. And then Rich, our ceiling fan, brought like a case and change from Cleveland. And then for some odd reason, the other Iowa car had decided to stop at a liquor store and pick up a bunch of stuff on the way as well. We did not need that much beers. Like that, we just didn't. But we drank a lot of it. It was also, it was a lot of fun in general. Stayed up to like 3:30 in the morning on Saturday playing board games and just having some beers with Charlie and Dom and hanging out. And Sunday night, like, guys were playing games. I was watching football with Josh, and again, just really solid hangs. I got to see Jordan and Abby. We finally got like another Jordan, Abby, Charmer, Logan, Tommy picture. Like, so we got to see Tommy again. Obviously Mara and Kevin and Diana, the Virginians. Got a cube in, love playing cube. Got to run a cube in, won by Wyatt, one of the other Virginia locals, I believe.
You and I got locked in for PvE testing.
We did. We were already locked in for PvE.
We were already locked in, but
yep. I finally got the materials over to you. Spent some time talking to Anderson about the PvE in general. He just wanted some feedback, and I was happy to provide it. Got to meet, a bunch of our listeners I haven't met before. Pinkwater, Mel, other people that were, everybody was super kind. Everybody came up to me to have a conversation. I think the one that scared me shitless was when I was walking to my table for a match and somebody just goes, you, I need to have a word with you. And I'm like, okay, sure. So it was Nate from Lansing.
Yeah.
And afterwards,
I was about to say, you got channeled to Lake Michigan.
I did get channeled to Lake Michigan. And I kind of walk over. I'm like, before we started anything, I didn't fuck your sister years ago or something and don't remember it. He's like, no, nothing like that. I mean, you might have, but nothing like that. And I'm like, okay, because it was like an aggressive get over here scorpion type of pull, and I was worried that I did something. But it turned out I did not. Well, at least to my knowledge, I didn't. But so yeah, and got to spend a lot of time around high quality people. The Ohio crew, Ryan, David, Josh Levy. So who was judging all weekend. Got to talk to Tyler a bunch, although he was just judging all weekend. Tyler from the 24-hour stream fame, also of the Fab Cube. Tyler, the creator, as he was deemed by Josh. And then, my Iowa locals that were with us, Dom and Josh Freeland and Chad and other 2 Joshes, actually. We have a lot of those, and Dagan. And it was weird because on the weekend, I would say Josh Maxson had just started, hasn't been playing very long. And he picked up Ira, and the man has caught the bug. And so he's just asking detailed questions about everything. And I'm like, God, this is fantastic. Like, this is the type of conversation that makes me better because I have to think about it. about what would I do here, and then talk through the why of it. And so that was just one of those more like those conversations were really reinvigorating for how I thought about the game. Now I do fucking hate the fact that Kasai might be unplayable, and let's go to why. So there was a calling. It was won by the current GOAT, Michael Yasser, on Florian. World champion Michael Yasser on Florian. And that killed Florian off. So Florian has been sent to the glue factory and is no longer playable as of Friday. So RIP Florian stands. That also leaves... So that is 5 Rune Blades that have LL'd. No other class has more than 2. Or sorry, Illusionist has 3. And then no other class has more than 2.
But it is 3 of the 4.
It is 3 of the 4. Yeah, and the 4th one's going soon.
I was going to say, like, knocking.
Like, how close is it now? Last I checked, it was
8 something, right?
It was in the 8s. Of course, we'll do it live because that's the only thing we ever do. Living Legend. Let's look here. 851. Yeah. And then KO Armed and Dangerous is at 912. So that was another funny conversation with Eugene, because we were talking about KOLLing, and he's like, what am I going to do? I don't have Claw anymore. And I was just like, you have Savage Claw. He's like, Savage Claw is like attacking with Spoon. I have Spork right now. At least there's points. But what am I supposed to do with a spoon? And I'm like, I don't fucking know. It's really bad. I get it. But yeah, so KO at 912 is probably going pretty soon. Prism at 851. We might lose Prism, KO, Verdance, potentially Syndra this year still. That's quite a few to go in a year. But I think that's kind of things working as intended to a degree. But the top 8 of the calling was 2 Acilio, 2 Fatiguedes Nuts, 1 Marionette, a Katsu playing Edge of Autumn.
I played against one of those today as well, by the way. Or not today, but at the event.
Was the deck entirely Japanese?
No.
Okay, so it was not the same person. Gravy Bones and a Florian. So again, no Verdance, no Syndra. So that triangle's gone. Like, we are not talking about the same game right now anymore. Acilio is kind of taking the place of the aggressive deck in this. I think that Pleiades is kind of will probably start taking the role of the control deck-ish aspect of this, and Gravy is Gravy. So it's starting to round out, into a new a new triangle of things that you have to be able to beat at least 2 of them. And that's where we come to the discussion of Kasai again, because Kasai's Gravy matchup, not good. Kasai's Fatiguedes matchup, unplayable. You can't do anything, because they're content to just do basically nothing and swing a hammer into an ally. Like, you can't establish them. They don't live long enough. And the fact that they are able to then start this call for backup cycle where they block with call for backup, they get a card back. They do that 3 times, and they remember it's back to call for backups, and then they do it again, and then it just keeps cycling through cards. So they never just run out, and you just can't do anything. So you either have to burn them down, or you have to play a fatigue matchup with them when they have the better tools. Like, they're effectively playing a 82 card deck into every matchup, and that
sounds about right.
That's untenable. Like, that's back to CYB type shit.
That's back to play Huntsman. Best way to get rid of their stuff is to banish it.
Right, and to have the agency to put it on the bottom of their deck, so that it's like, man, if I only drew my remembrances, check the bottom 6 cards. that might be real, honestly. But
hey, Huntsman had a 50% conversion rate to day
one
two.
of two.
One of two.
Yeah, there we go. So I do have to find a new deck if I plan on playing this weekend on Saturday in an RTN. I do need to find something to play because I do think that the Midwest is just Guardian Central and Fatigue land a lot of the time. So I need to find something that will convert through Fatigue. And that's usually just being low to the ground and aggressive. Or playing Fatigue Mirrors. I'm not doing that. So low to the ground and aggressive it is. Acilio's a consideration. I would have to get much better at understanding that deck. There's a couple other things I'm looking at.
Could play -IO.
I could play -IO. Would prefer never to play a Mechanologist, literally ever. It's not illusionist bad. It's not that level I hate. But I just don't enjoy it.
I mean, that's fair. I just was thinking to myself, well, if you are thinking about Acilio, it's kind of the same level of intricacies.
Yeah, it is.
Semi-similar in speed.
Yeah, it's but I need something that's like in the playstyle range of things that I'm already familiar with because I don't have time to learn a completely different style of play. So it has to be either like in the wheelhouse of Runeblade, which I can play, easily.
The Vincent is right there.
There's a difference there because I honestly think that Vincent is the hardest deck to play in Flesh and Blood full stop.
Wow.
And I don't have time to figure those lines out. I could just read Mara's War and Peace treatise on Vincent, but I don't have time for that either. So can't really do that. So I'm going to be looking, there's a couple of things I have in mind that I'll workshop a little bit, see what I can come up with. I don't think Syndra is particularly playable. The one I played into, we had a weird judge call where my opponent attacks, is in chain links, attacks with a hunter or hunted or whatever it is, or hunt the hunted, the 1-for-5. And I block. And he then goes and goes to play Blood Runs Deep. I'm like, hold on, that doesn't have go again. He's like, oh, I need to break my scalers. I'm like, I don't know where we are, so judge, And so Eric, somebody we know, comes over, and I'm like,
somebody know.
Well, sure, he doesn't know you. You know him. And I explained the situation. We agree that my opponent and I agree on the situation entirely. There's no anything. And what I said was, I'm pretty sure this is a simple rewind. He just cracks the scalers and we move on with our lives. And Eric's like, okay, and listens to it. And then, but the ruling was, because the only information I could think of that my opponent, anybody had gained, is I knew about the Blood Runs Deep now. And then, but Eric pointed out that my opponent gained new information when I pointed out that his card did not have go again. I'm like, oh, right. Sure, that I guess. And so it's considered a misplay, and they don't just do rewinds for misplays. And I asked my opponent, would you like to appeal? And he's like, yes, I'd like to appeal. Okay, great. Head judge comes over, upholds the ruling, right? I don't think I lose that game anyway. I don't think in the long run it mattered. It just felt like a really weird one because I never thought about the fact that me pointing out something was going to count as information gained. It's just something that I was unaware of.
Yeah, it's not something that I think I would have realized in the moment, but from a ruling standpoint,
thinking through it, it makes sense.
It does make sense to me, but I do understand, right? Yeah, I mean, I guess good on the judges for knowing like the actual status.
Absolutely.
Because I'm just trying to think about like the depth of knowledge you have to catch that. I think it's easier to miss in the moment as a player, but even just coming into it, I think I would have arrived at the same spot you did, which is, okay, it's probably just like a simple rewind, maybe a game state warning, which is no big deal sort of thing, and then move on. But it does make sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. And I really appreciate my opponent. There was no real acrimony for the judge call or anything like that. It was just a, oops. And like I said, opponent was really cool about it. We both like legitimately we could just completely agreed on our versions of those stories were the same. We represented everything exactly right. Nobody tried to shark out a different ruling or anything like that. We just literally told the facts on both sides. That's, if you're used to coming from Magic, where that was always a, he said, she said thing when it came to judge calls a lot of the time, because people disagree on the facts.
I got bodied by a bad judge ruling at a GP once.
Yeah.
Because of he said, she said stuff. Gosh, man, I don't even remember the set that it was, but it was one where artifacts weren't super prevalent, but somebody was attacking with a big flying thing. And I remember that I was attempting to shatter it. And
like shatter, like two mana shatter?
Like 2 mana shatter. Yeah. This was like 20 years ago, dude. I guess I tipped my hat when I said GP because like how long have
those been gone, what's a GP?
But so he didn't. My opponent didn't even. I remember this very vividly because I was so stunned throughout all of it. He didn't even attempt to communicate anything. He just calls a judge, right? Like I'm playing the shatter. He just calls a judge. And then he comes over and he says, I've already dealt combat damage and my opponent's trying to shatter my creature. And I'm like, excuse me? And they did not do a rewind. I appealed and it still got whatever.
Huh.
It is the second saltiest I've been about a ruling in Magic ever. The first was... okay, so hear me out. It was not a competitive event. It was Odyssey pre-release. So on the one hand, totally don't need to be salty. On the other hand,
center yourself, son.
Had a judge try to rule that an elephant token was not a permanent because it's a token.
So,
and even though it's just
Call of the Herd happened,
it still makes me angry.
I don't blame you for that one because, Jesus, I have plenty of those stories. I'm not going to get into them; it'll take forever. But there was also a Silver Age Battle Hardened, won by Briar Baby. The top 8 was a Briar, an Enigma, 2 Oldhim, a Kano, a Lexi, and 2 chains?
2 chains, the proper number of chains.
The only respectable number of chains is 2 chains. Or 0 chains. I'm also okay with 0 chains. But if you're going to have chains, they need to be 2 chains. I don't think we'll have chains for very long. Just going to put that out there.
Really?
I'm fairly certain that when the bans for Silver Age happen, the community ban chain will be the LSS ban.
But when we were talking about Runeblades earlier, you and I thought we're in unanimous agreement that everything in the hero text box was fine.
Was bullshit. The words that we use was chain's text box is a mistake. It is bullshit.
I don't remember it that way, sir.
Well, judge call. We can go back and do this, I guess. We also got more reprints from Compendium. So Heart of Fyendal, which I think we kind of all assumed that we'd get Heart of Findle. This one we didn't necessarily. I'm not going to say this the way I wrote it in the show notes, but we got a Riches of Tropoldani reprint with some pretty questionable art.
So maybe I am part of the problem, and I will fully admit that. Okay. I didn't think that the art was that big of a deal till I saw a bunch of people complaining about it, and I fully empathize and understand why people would have a problem with it. But my thing was twofold. One, I don't even know if I guess this is true or not, but when I first looked at it, I thought it was statues. I think it is supposed to be statues.
I think it's supposed to be statues.
I've heard it both ways. To me, it looked like it was statues. And to me, like, you know, close to nudity or whatever on statues isn't that big of a deal because, like, it's statues. I don't know. Maybe my trip to Italy, like, desensitized to me, but I'm like, it's statues. But it's also, like, not even nudity because it's whatever.
It's not nudity.
But also, like, to me, it was very clearly trying to also be like sea sirens, which are, you know, meant to be seductive. And look, I get it. Like, I am your stereotypical, you know, straight white male, whatever. Art is often catered toward my gaze, if you will. But
100%.
Also, one of the things that I enjoy about Flesh and Blood is that everything is not like overly sexualized. That's not to say that we can't have sexualized stuff. I mean, we all made the jokes about horny hitters, and there are definitely cards that have it, right? Like we talk about Goonbait as a card, and like, let's be honest,
there's also Slither.
You know, well, so that's what I was going to get at though, right? But like, I will say that what I have enjoyed in the past is, with New in particular, I almost liked that the sexualization was weaponized, right? Like that it was almost like the bright colors of a poison dart frog or whatever's poisonous in nature. In that, like, yes, it's seductive, but that's also why it's going to kill you, right? Like that's why I like art like Justinic and Leave No Witnesses and some of those things. And so
Mask of Recurring Nightmares.
Yeah, but like I fully understand it, but I don't know, like I didn't clock it at first glance. So yeah, I don't know. I was just like, it just looks like sea siren statues, and sirens are supposed to be seductive. But
just removing from the art though, that is definitely a needed reprint, and the fact that they got that done so quickly, like it had to have been already like in the pipeline, right? And this is where the cold foil is going to come from. But it was just, we had that conversation of like, oh noes, my Riches isn't going to be $400 anymore. I don't care. Like,
I'm not losing my mind. I was just like second guessing it here. Hold on, let me pull that up, and then let me look at this next side by side. So what I like when I first saw the spoiler, what I had like mentally clocked it as was that it was supposed to be statues of like literally the sirens from Sea Sirens.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
And as I'm pulling it up, it does look like Sirens of Safe Harbor in that it has the same ear, right? The one thing that you could say is like the one that's closest doesn't seem to have the fin, but the other one does look like, it's hard because it's like right at the edge of the card, but it does look like it might have like the fin on the arm, like in Sirens of Safe Harbor. But I don't know. Because it was like so like marble-esque and whatever, and because it's holding the thing up, I just clocked it as like, oh, this is just like a giant gem being held up by
a statue.
Statues of the sirens. So I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, if you're listening and you have a problem with it, I fully understand it. I didn't personally like clock it, but I'm partially desensitized. I mean, I will say this. We're still not at like, we're not playing Shadowverse. We're not playing
Weiss Schwartz.
Well, I don't even think anybody plays that game. I don't think that's a game. I think people just collect it. But
I do have friends that want to play it.
I was going to say like Grand Archive.
Oh yeah, that was bad. Shadowverse Evolve, Grand Archive.
And again, like, other things being bad doesn't mean that this thing is acceptable. Like, I also understand that. I just, I just didn't immediately clock it. Like, when I started seeing the memes about like titties of Tropeldani or whatever, like, I had to go back and figure out what people were talking about because I legit was not making the connection. Maybe, I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just too old for this.
Maybe you're just old. Yeah, maybe you're just old. But let's move on to the other things that we got. We got some stuff out of the Hala Blade Saint of the Vow Armory deck. We got her weapon, Zenith Blade, which is a Hala specialization. Would have loved if this was around when Shiana was a thing in Blitz. But
I mean, Shiana's still the thing in Blitz.
Yeah, but Blitz isn't a thing. So Hala specialization, once per turn, 1 resource attack. It's a two-handed sword, so it's 3 power. If this has been sharpened this turn, its first attack this turn gets go again. So it does not on its own grant the second attack. It's the inverse of Dawnblade in that way, but you would need ways to give it a second attack, which is why we get to Edict of Steel. Bastion Jez artwork, so
so amazing,
incredible. And this is a 0 cost, 3 block, red warrior action. Sharpen target sword you control, put a +1 counter on it, remove all +1 counters at the end of the turn. If it has 1 or more +1 counters, create a flurry token. And the action has go again. And then there's a flurry token, which is when you activate a weapon attack, destroy this weapon, or destroy this, and you may attack with the weapon twice this turn. So the conversations I've already started in a couple of Discords I'm in where, how does this work with Twinning Blade? Well, Twinning Blade is a continuous effect. So if you have a way to give the second Zenith Blade attack go again, you would then be able to also, and you Twinning Bladed, you would be able to attack with it 3 times. Hala's ability is just 3 resources, sharpen target sword you control. So obviously everything's going to revolve around that. That is how Hala's going to work. And sure, totally fine. I don't really see the sharpen card is a common, so there's probably going to be some majestic stuff that's much better, or at least much more interesting. So we'll see. Not totally sure.
I will say this. This is the first warrior that I've been like, okay, that kind of makes me want to play warrior since Olympia. I was kind of there with Olympia because I really liked the idea of like the pit fighter aesthetic, and then there was like
but there ain't
enough.
Shit.
I was gonna say there wasn't nearly enough support for me to be like, okay, I'm actually gonna try it. But like, as somebody who I almost exclusively play either Guardian or Assassin, occasional Runeblade. I played a lot more Runeblade when I first started playing. This is the first time where I've seen something when I was like, that might be enough.
That might tickle your fancy.
Yeah. I really like the multiple attack stuff, but I love the idea of like buffing up your weapon. But the reason like I never picked up Dorinthia is like, it's cool in theory, but in practice with Dorinthia, because the counters stay, it's such like a risk reward, and it's like questionable whether it ever even happens and blah, blah, blah. This, because it's meant to be temporary, feels like the trade-off is you'll be able to do it more often, but you have to like keep rebuilding it every turn, right? With the sharpen effects. But I'm hoping that means that there's still enough consistency where like one can do it, because I do think that this play style would be something that I would enjoy, like that I would almost be like, okay, I want to play warrior now.
Yeah, it looks very mid, so that actually makes a lot of sense why you would really want to be doing it.
Yeah.
It's kind of your thing.
It really is. I love taking the most mid of mid and then trying to just like ride that line.
It's not
It also, like, I'll be honest, it also might just be that piece of Bastion Jez artwork. Dude, Edict of Steel does look outstanding.
Sure, fine.
And if they ever did, like, a Marvel cold foil version or whatever of that, like...
Yeah, okay.
The gold around is...
Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's do some listener questions. I have one that's an early question in there, but I'm thinking to skip that for a day where we don't have much to talk about. Like, something that I've been kicking around I want to talk through, but we'll postpone that. Because how often do I have things I want to talk about? I mean, very rarely. The first one is from Darick T. A buddy of mine that I met through Fab and I are starting our own podcast about another TCG, Sorcery Contested Realm. Is there any advice you would give for anyone starting down this path? You guys have been my favorite podcast. Thank you. And have inspired me to set out and do this with another game. So the meme answer I've given to this question in the past is don't. My advice would be don't. It is a thankless job. Well, that's not true. It's not. I was going to
say, don't say that, because the number of people that said, like, hey, I love the show, hey, whatever, was way more than I'm used to at calling Columbus. I don't know. Like, I was legitimately taken aback at the number of people who kept saying it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And again, it's not a thankless job. It's just, it's the one thing I would say is set your goals for the, if you're going to set goals for the show, which we never did, even at the very beginning. And maybe that's why, part of why, the change happened quickly with the show. But we never set real goals for ourselves. And the only thing that we ever took into account is we do this until it's not fun anymore. And then we stop. It's not about anything other than, are we having a good time with what we're doing? And that's the key. In order to do this, you better fucking love it. You better absolutely enjoy it. If you don't, then stop.
It really has to be something that you want to do, because the moment that, like, you feel like you have to, it becomes exponentially harder to do it.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. And so my first piece of advice would be, if you feel like you want to set goals, set goals. It's great. Don't be too hard on yourself, because it's hard. It's difficult. The hardest part about going to the gym is putting on the shoes. It's not anything else. It's just putting on your shoes. Because you can think of 1,000 reasons not to go. But the minute you put on your shoes, well, now your shoes are on, you might as well go. It's that same thing here. But the hardest part about doing anything is just doing it.
The hardest part about keeping the streak alive is going, well, we could.
Or we could just record an episode. And it's like, oh, yeah, that's a good point. Which I thought that was getting to last night. I'm like, either Darick's angry about something.
I was. At the moment, I was very angry
at
about
the moment
something.
You were pretty pissed off. That national title game was not the best work by the U.
No, like, this is what happens every time that they, like, start to get good. All of the players that were, objectively amazing from, the 90s and early aughts, they show up and then they get, like, all the players, I think, get high on past accolades and whatever, and everyone tells them, like, yeah, it's going to be great now, it's going to be amazing. And then they just, like, forget how to play, because it was just sloppy. Like, special teams was awful across the board. Play calling, they started that opening drive with, like, literally they rip off a 9-yard run, and then they went, I don't know, it was like 8 or 9 pass plays in a row. And I'm like, you have a huge offensive line. Like, Bell, like, offensive linemen are already big, but, like, Bell looks like a man among boys out there.
Right, he's a monster.
at left tackle. So like just get up and run behind him. And they had that one big like success, and then they're like, all right, we're done with that now. That was cute.
6'8", 370, is that right?
Yeah, I mean he's just huge. Like
6'9", 340.
He just looks like a man among
boys
out
not
there.
He's not 340. He's every bit of 360, 370.
Yeah, like it's rare that when you look at an entire offensive line across from a defensive line and you're like, one of these things is not like the other. But that's Bell. So like, I don't know, it was just so frustrating because it was like you're purposefully trying to win this game with your worst assets. Like that was all I just kept thinking. Like you're purposefully trying to win this game with your worst assets. And the last thing that I wanted was the game to depend on Carson Beck. And then guess what happened? The game depended on Carson Beck.
So I would contend that the Miami team last year was a better team.
Oh, I said that to you at the calling. I said, this might be like overall talent wise, the worst Miami team to ever make a national championship.
Yeah.
They do have some stars, and I think if they can actually get a real quarterback in, they might have.
But yeah,
a
it's
shot
like
in
if this was
a year
Cam
or two.
Ward, if this was Cam Ward and not Carson Beck, like
exactly. Yeah, right. Like if Tony ever got to play with Cam Ward, we're talking different stuff, right?
Very different.
Anyway, yes, I was angry last night.
Yes, and had set his phone elsewhere, and so I'm sitting there.
Yeah,
going,
I was upstairs charging.
So he's either leaving me on red because he doesn't want to talk about it, or he's watching something, or has fallen asleep on the couch, or he's actually dead in a gutter. All these are possible. So
no, never a gutter.
Sure. CD hotel room, whatever.
A ravine, maybe.
A good ravine. I like a good
ravine.
Yeah. But yeah, the answer, go back to the question really quick. The thing that you need to make sure of is that it is what you want to do, and that when you start, you're enjoying it. You're doing it for you. You're not doing it for anybody else. You need to make sure you're doing it for you. Next question is from Nora. What is the most fair and balanced class, and why is it Illusionist? Illusionist is super Fox News. Very fair and balanced. But it is the Fox News fair and balanced. The actual fairest class, I believe, is Warrior. Because Warrior just doesn't do anything unfair. Ever. Even Lumina Ascension requires like so much. It's not unfair. Balanced? God, that's a different question.
I think the most balanced is probably Guardian. Guardian does have the ability to do unfair things, but like
if I remove,
I don't count Starvo as a Guardian. So if you remove Starvo,
fine.
The rest,
because Oldhim was not fair. Or balanced for that.
So
matter.
Here's the thing. I think Oldhim was fine. I think Crown in conjunction with Oldhim was the problem, right? Like the two together, I think were very problematic.
I get it.
But
it might it might just be Brute.
I don't know, man.
Like, I did get 43.
As much as like Oldhim does like crazy things, it doesn't. Oldhim has never like intimidated your hand and killed you.
Sure.
Like from 30.
It's definitely not Ranger. It's definitely not Mechanologist. It's certainly not Wizard. God, maybe it is. Maybe Guardian is on like the balance side. Maybe that is right.
Well, the only reason I was thinking about that is because when I think of
balance or still
as well,
Warrior, either way.
Yeah, I mean it could be Warrior as well. The only reason that I was leaning more toward Guardian than Warrior as far as balance goes is because when I think of balance, it's not just what's fair, but also what have you done a good job of keeping power levels mostly the same while having different identities? And I will say that like Victor is different from Bravo, who's different from Jarl, who's different. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
I think that all of the Guardians individually actually have pretty decent identity while still being a Guardian. And to that effect, like, I would say if it weren't for, well, it's boomer bust, right? Like Ninja has some balanced stuff, but also has arguably the most broken stuff in the game, especially with full card pool.
Yeah,
so.
the second grossest deck to exist in CC ever. Well, actually third. Is full powered Zen. Like, full stop. Just the only things that were on the same power level or better or higher than full powered Zen were full powered Starvo and full powered Chain.
Oh, you know what? It's actually a really cheeky answer for like most balanced. Pirate.
No.
Pirate's
because
fine. Necromancer's the problem.
Gravy is, well, sure.
Pirate.
Okay, maybe Pirate. But there is an unbalanced Pirate is your problem.
But is he unbalanced because he's a pirate? Like the pirate, if you took all the Necromancer cards out and just left the pirate part.
No.
I'm going to go with pirate.
All right, you can.
But it's probably warrior.
Yeah, it's a hell of a hill. Next question is Quiet Mind 42. Should LSS ban trap cards without counterplay like Scour, Amulet of Echoes, and Ripple Away? I think what they mean by lack of counterplay is there are things that just happen and you can't do anything to prevent it. It's just exactly this happens. No. There are cards that were printed to make sure there's ways to address specific issues in matchups. Scour to get rid of Rune Chance or to get rid of Spectral Shields or...
Technically, all of those things have some form of counterplay. It's just not widely available to everyone, right? Like, you can counterspell a Scour, but you have to be on Wizard, right? Like,
right, yeah. Amulet of Echoes, again, they just do the thing.
Sure, but they only did the thing because you did the thing. So, right. Like, the way you counterplay it is don't play the same card 5 times in a turn. Like,
yeah. Ripple Away again is just it
only stops one. So just make more than one.
Just gotta make more than one. But they're not bannable. Like, it's whatever. Those are completely fine, and there's no, like, I don't have any issue with any of those. I mean, Dagon did get Centauri Sellswords rippled away this past weekend, which I found pretty funny. But
I don't remember if it was on Twitter or BlueSky, but if we go back to when that set first came out, I publicly said that the most broken card in that set was secretly Ripple Away.
Yeah, I remember.
It was also just rage bait at the time, but...
A little bit, but I also kind of believed it. Next one's from Johnny Pastrami. Do you guys have any fun deck list names in your gem account? Parentheses, this might be the closest I've ever come to asking a Flesh and Blood related question. It is the closest you've ever come to making a Flesh and Blood related question. I really don't. I usually just name them in gem specifically. I name them the event that they're for, so I know not to grab them continually, unless I made absolutely no changes between event and event. So I don't really, in gem, I don't really do any fun naming. Elsewhere, sure. February, absolutely. But not in gem. Do you have anything in gem that's entertaining?
I was pulling up what I currently have in there. I only have 3. I have Ira Flick Queen, Flick Arachne Huntsman, and Muscle Mommy.
Muscle Mommy's good, at least.
That I just played.
Yeah. So you have like 1-ish. Next one's from our friend, the BlueSky Rich. Rank all the loves in Love Actually, regardless of finality, except for them realizing them. I will go ahead and say that I've never watched Love Actually sober, and I haven't watched Love Actually in over 20 years. I think that is accurate because it would have been fairly soon after Love Actually came out, which came out in 2003. So it's been over 20 years. Great cast. Nothing. I'm not nothing. Not saying anything bad about the movie. It's just I'm unfamiliar. Can't speak to it. Darick, do you have any hard opinions on Love Actually?
No.
No.
I don't think I've ever seen it like start to finish.
Like,
I've
full
seen
stop?
pieces of it, like if it's been on, but I know I didn't see it in theaters that year because that year that was back when Sophie and I were going to the movies like almost every weekend. But that year also had like an insane number of movies that I wanted to see in theaters. Like, because I was curious. I was like, I don't think I've ever seen it. So what came out that year?
A
Are you
lot.
ready?
It's a lot.
Return of the King.
Yeah.
Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl, Kill Bill Volume 1, Mystic River, Radio, Lost in Translation. I'm looking for stuff. I love
Lost in Translation.
We did go see Big Fish in theaters, as weird as that
Big
sounds.
Fish was also good.
Bad Boys 2, Old
sure.
School, Bruce
Old
Almighty,
School, yeah.
Identity, Matrix Reloaded, The Last Samurai. Oh, man. I don't remember what movie. I don't remember what movie I was in, but I remember laughing so hard. The first time a trailer ever popped up for Last Samurai, they do the whole thing, right? And after the trailer ends, I just remember I was in a theater and one dude from the back yelled, "What? They couldn't hire one more Asian?" And I just lost it. Like,
Jesus Christ.
Right. Wrong Turn, X-Men 2, X-Men United,
X-Men United.
Underworld.
Don't love Underworld.
The Italian Job remake, Anger Management, Too Fast, Too Furious was that year.
Okay.
Elf was that year.
Which
Terminator 3, Freaky Friday. I know Sophie and I saw that in theaters that year.
Yeah.
Hulk, like
Edward Norton Hulk. No, that would have been Eric Bana Hulk.
Yeah, Eric Bana Hulk. And I remember that one. I actually saw that by myself. Nobody wanted to go with me, so I just went by myself.
Nice.
Yeah, but I mean, there was just so many movies that year. So, no, I didn't see it when it like came out in theaters, and it wasn't ever something where I was like, okay, I need to see this. It was always like if it was on, it was on, but I don't think I've ever seen it start to finish. So I'm gonna go with Rick Grimes as the worst relationship, and that's why he ends up in the coma before waking up during The Walking Dead.
Okay, that's pretty funny.
Dreamcatcher
was fine.
I know we saw that. That's a Stephen King book.
Yeah. Like, Dreamcatcher was fine. I didn't hate Dreamcatcher. I don't think I hated much in general, really. But
it's wild to go back and see like a big list of like, those are all the movies that came out that year, and then think about like how maybe, 10 of them were sequels, whereas like if I look at the movies coming out now, there'll be like 2 movies that are not sequels.
Yeah, it depends on like the time, because right now, if you look at what's in theaters, there's Anaconda, which is definitely not a sequel.
No, it is.
It's not a sequel.
It's technically a sequel because it's the Tropic Thunder, but them trying to make Anaconda again,
right?
And then a real Anaconda shows up, like
right. That's not.
But that
Anaconda,
means it means that in that movie, like Anaconda, the film had to have happened.
Correct.
It'd be like when they did, what is it, Nightmare on Elm Street 7 or whatever, where it starts as the documentary.
New Nightmare is
yeah,
the one
New
you're
Nightmare,
of.
right? That's technically a sequel in the franchise, even though
it is actually not a sequel in the franchise.
It is, though.
It is not. It is not considered a Nightmare on Elm Street movie canonically.
It's still part of an existing IP.
Sure.
Right? Like,
does that mean that Dune with Timothée Chalamet is a sequel to the David Lynch Dune?
Yes, in my mind it is.
It is fucking not.
No, but I use this distinction because to me it would be like saying Mandalorian and Grogu isn't like a sequel movie when it comes out, even though it's part of the Star Wars franchise, and it's very clearly picking up and building. And it's picking up and building on the story told in other movies.
It's actually picking up and building on the story told in a television show, which was picking up on the story built in other movies and TV shows. And video games.
Right.
Comic books.
Sure.
Novels. Well, not the novels anymore, but then Housemaid, Primate, what else is out there right now? It's not good. Avatar Fire and Ash, which is obviously a sequel, but
Bone Temple, which actually
that's a sequel.
That was actually a lot of fun though. Like that was just a fun movie.
That is a sequel.
Return to Silent Hill comes later this month. That's a sequel. Greenland 2, that's a sequel.
Yeah, okay. I think your point is made. Zootopia 2. Yeah, your point is made. Next one. From Gooflabrain. Look into your crystal ball. Which CC characters still need help / suck post compendium? That's hard to say. We don't know much about compendium. We know that they're elemental cards. That's probably a bad thing. But I think that we just don't know enough. We're still in kind of status quo territory. Yeah.
I know that there's a lot of focus on Silver Age, and rightfully so when we talk about compendium. But I will say I am very much looking forward to seeing how much it shakes up Classic Constructed as well, because there are definitely cards at like rare and common that have big impacts.
There are also just Majestics in the set.
Well, I mean, yeah, that too, but
it's not like there are like it's just bereft of anything for CC. Like from what we already have, Majestics, we have our Savage Claw, which is still a fucking joke. Cinema Spark Cap, which is at least interesting because it's a base. Ghost Protocol Mainframe, Ghost Protocol Architect, Grimara Felling Song, which is a book for making rune chants. Elemental Strike, which is just it's the Elemental E-Strike. Those are the non-reprint Majestics that have already been revealed. So we know their stuff. Ghost Protocols are obviously a Teklevasan thing. Synapse Spark Cap.
I'm opening it up.
Because it's a Banish and Evo thing to create a Ponder token, so it's still definitely a Teklevasan thing. So there's a lot of Teklo support. Grimara Felling Song is obviously is vignette support. So maybe we'll see some stuff that will continue to see some stuff that's directed out of the Majestic slot at underwhelming or underperforming heroes. But James did kind of let the cat out of the bag a little bit that we do get at least Lyeth's weapon as well in this set. So there's also probably a good, like, Tough Nuts Rock. We already have Moment Maker. We know that Savage Claw is RKOs, and Lyeth's weapon is allegedly in the set here too. It will be in the set too. So
right,
maybe we'll get Betsy's finally.
Maybe we'll get Log.
Get Log. So we'll see. Last question from Maggie23. How do you hope the story concludes with Monarch 3? I mean, I have an answer. Do you want me to give my answer?
I want to go first.
You're allowed to go first.
I hope that at the end of the story, Prism dies.
Preach. My hope is, so we know that Solana was fomenting the rebellion in Volcor and hired Arachne to kill the Emperor. We know that. We also know that when Shiana went to kind of confront them about it, they brainwashed her. They went straight up Zatanna mind wiped her. Which that makes you evil in my mind. So my hope of hopes is that Solana actually gets torn down. Because they're trying, like, it's, you need the, I hope that Viserai returns to help repel the shadow, but also brings down Solana in the process. And you get a new sort of society born out of it with...
So a new society could be cool. The other thing that I thought would also be kind of a neat take, because granted, there are still plenty of places that we haven't explored within Wraith, right? But we know that like the world of Wraith right now feels finite. Not to say that there's not a lot of different ways they can expand on things, but I think it'd be kind of cool if the ending of it, right, between, you know, Demonasteri and Solana, somebody, for lack of a better way to phrase it, like pulls the nuclear option. And the area becomes, you know, maybe even tainted, but I don't mean like in the traditional like shadow sense. Like it'd be kind of cool if in the aftermath something new showed up, right? And so maybe that then leads into our first heroes that are like both light and shadow, or maybe it's like a new, you know, realm, or, you know, like you were kind of saying, you know, maybe it's a new power structure. I don't know, but I would like it to be something where it feels like the world of Wraith is capable of change. And I only say that because in Magic, not to say that Magic and its lore didn't have changes along the way, but like especially in early Magic, because they were always planes hopping, it was just like nothing ever felt like it was mattering to a real degree, because you knew at the end of the story you were just going to hop somewhere else anyway, right? So like you were only invested in the story so far, and then you'd get like a reset, right? I like that we get to stay in Wraith with a lot of these stories, and I would like to see the like long-term evolution / consequences of the events. And I think that this is one of the ways that they could showcase like, hey, our story does evolve and there are consequences, and this, you know, changes the world for like future sets and stuff.
Yeah. I would also love it if, you know, they killed off a character in the story, they just get living legend regardless of points. And then kill Prism. And then make a new Prism and immediately kill it.
What are you going to do? I want to ask you a legitimate question right now. What are you going to do when we finally get adult Shiana and she's also illusionist?
Not play it.
Okay. I wanted to pose the question. It's something that's rattled around the back of my head. I'm like,
it's fine.
It's very, very possible that if we ever got an adult one, that like she would also be an illusionist. So
yeah, that's probably true. I'm sad actually thinking about this.
I've done my job.
Fuck. All right, let's thank some patrons and get out of here before I fucking blow my top. We have our associate producers. We have Andy, Sindra, Anthony, Ejor, Jacob, Aladoris, Octotherptopus, Heiner, and Sleep Coma. And then we have our executive producers on up. We have Blaze-Storm, valued member of the Patreon. Diana, the Green Cosplayer. John, Charlie, our Possum supporter, the Delusian Data Analyst. And then our Chargers Chamber of Charcoal. Vintox18, you can come on the show now. You actually have a computer because I gave it to you. Well, gave is a strong
in this
word.
economy, that's
I traded the computer to him.
It's like giving him a house. Does it have RAM in it?
It does, and a processor and a good video card. It's like a real computer. Then we have Matt. You're welcome back anytime. Brandon, same story. Dahama, sometime soon. Rich, we got to get back on here, buddy. Always a blast when Rich is around. If you're interested in becoming a member of our Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/fleshandpod. Links in the show notes. Do stuff and things. And we'll do, I don't know. Fuck it. I'm done. You can contact us. Send us an email at fleshandpod@gmail.com. You can find us on Blue Sky. Just search Flesh and Pod. You can also just join our Discord. It's easy. Links in the show notes. Join. No fees, no fuss, no muss. Just join. Simple. Charmer, where can they find you?
In the Discord at no, I'm not going to do it to Jordan because he actually was at the event and I got to see him and I told him I only do it because I miss him. So in the Discord.
So now you don't miss him.
Yeah, give it a week.
Okay. That makes sense. Did Jordan tell you we were gambling on the girls volleyball tournaments that were happening?
He did not.
The hall? Yeah, we were.
Stark, when we were walking in, he was like, "What is that?" And I was like, "It's almost certainly volleyball." And he's like, "No, really?" And I'm like, "No, really, dude. Like,
no, really.
If it's Midwestern Convention Center and you hear whistles, it's probably indoor volleyball." And
it's
he's like,
volleyball or wrestling.
He's like, it could be basketball, and I was like,
Nope.
It's not that. It's volleyball or wrestling or martial arts, but most likely volleyball. Every time I've ever been at one of these, it's just been a huge all-day volleyball thing. And sure enough.
Yep, it's volleyball. But we were gambling on the volleyball tournament because why wouldn't we? I mean, it's right there. We might as well. And the worst thing is that we wound up pushing. And you know how much I fucking hate pushing. Like, I'd rather lose.
Yeah.
But at any rate, I think that's all I got. You got anything else?
No.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in late this week, I guess. And, yeah, I'm sure we'll be back next week. I mean, why the fuck wouldn't we? It's just what we do. We're conditioned to it. Because if I say, maybe you'll take a week off, Charmer will just say, yeah, but what if we don't?
What if we don't?
Do it. They'll just do it anyway. So thank you for listening. We'll chat with you next week. Bye.